Hello and welcome to the BoardGameCorner.com. In this rules and setup video, I'll be teaching you how to play the game Coal Baron. In this game, players own coal mining companies, each with their own individual coal mines. Over the course of 3 rounds, called work shifts, you'll take actions that include things like adding tunnels to your mine, which is how you get access to more coal, actions to mine the coal and bring it to the surface, and actions to deliver the coal to market to get in-game victory points by fulfilling orders. You can start by putting out the cubes and the money next to the board. At the end of each of the 3 rounds, there'll be a scoring phase. These are shown on the main board. This is the other way to score points. At the end of round 1, you'll get points for delivering the most of each type of coal to market. At the end of round 2, you'll again score points for the most coal type shipped, but now you'll also get points for using the most type of each method of transportation. And finally, at the end of round 3, you'll again score for the most coal and the most transportation, but now you'll also get points for having the most cars cleared of coal in your mine. At the end of the game, you can possibly lose points for having an imbalanced mine. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. At this point, whoever has the most victory points remaining wins the game. Let's go ahead and talk about setting the game up. To get started, each player selects a color and all the matching wooden bits. Depending on the number of players, you may need to return some of these workers to the box. There's a chart in the rulebook. For this video, we'll be playing with 4 players, so everyone only gets to keep 13 workers. The rest go back in the box and won't be used. Each player also needs to take a mine board, a mine shaft, and an elevator. The mine boards are all the same, so it doesn't matter which one you take. Insert the mine shaft, and notice, due to the thickness of the cardboard, you're left with a shaft. This is where the elevator goes. Be sure it can slide from the top to the bottom and back and forth. Now this is more than just a novelty. Moving the elevator up and down in the mine shaft is critical to the game, so it's both practical and kind of fun. Next, seed your mine by placing matching colored cubes on each of the individual spots in each tunnel. There'll be 1 cube of each color. Once that's done, select a starting player and shuffle the orders deck. Lay out cards associated with the number of players. There's also a chart in the rulebook for this. For a 4-player game, you'll lay out 13 cards. Now, starting with the last player and working counterclockwise, each player selects an initial order. You put your order cards up here next to your mine. Repeat this process 2 more times so that everyone starts the game with 3 orders. There should be 1 order card left, and that goes here on the main board. Finally, depending upon the number of players, you'll get a certain amount of starting money. There's also a chart for this in the rulebook, but for 4 players, you'll each start the game with 8 Deutschmarks. Now let's go ahead and set up the main board. So the first thing you need to do is, if there's less than 4 players, you need to block off certain areas of the board using these chits with a lock on them. This is to tighten things up. In a 3-player game, place a lock on all the action spaces marked with a 2 and a 3. In a 2-player game, you'll lock all the areas with a 2 or a 2 and a 3. Since this video shows a 4-player game, all action spaces are open and available. We'll discuss each area in detail when we get to the gameplay section of this video. The first area on the board that we need to set up is called the factory, and this is where you go to buy new tunnels for your mine. To set this up, first shuffle the tunnel tiles and place them face down. Then, draw and place the tiles face up in each of the spots. You'll end up with 8 tunnels to select from. Next, we need to fill in the remaining order spaces. Just draw the top 3 order cards and place them face up on each of the open spots. Put the player score discs on the 0 spot on the board. Finally, set the clock hand to the end of round 1 on the scoreboard to remind you that you'll be scoring at the end of this round. That's it, you're ready to play. Coal Baron is a worker placement game that uses resource markers instead of meeples. Although they're called workers, you can think of each of them representing things like money, time, and labor that you're investing in your company. The main difference between this game and other traditional worker placement games is the blocking mechanic. That's because there basically isn't one. Any action space that has a resource token already on it, from other players or even your own, you can reuse. To do this, you just need to pay 1 more resource than is already there. Remember, the first time anyone uses an open action space, they must place one and only one worker there. When these tokens are removed from a spot because you've decided to pay extra to reuse it, the original workers are placed in the canteen until the end of the round. The owner does not get any benefit from this. The tokens just remain on the board and cannot be used until they're retrieved. This only happens at the end of the round. Okay, so on your turn, you'll place a resource token in one of 5 possible action areas. Let's review each of those. First, before you can use an action space, you must be able to afford it, and you must take the action. You can't place workers to block an action spot from the other players. The first area we're going to talk about is where you get tunnels, and this is called the factory. To use this area, place one or more workers, as previously discussed, and take the associated tunnel tile. You must now pay the amount printed on the tile. If you can't afford it, you can't take it. So this one costs $4. Then place this tunnel in your mine. When placing new tunnels, there are a couple of rules you have to follow. The first is you must place light colored tiles in the same level of the mine. You can't place black coal tunnels, for example, on the yellow coal level. The second rule has to do with which side of the mine you place the tunnel. Notice the left side of the mine, the rooms have lights. Any tile with lights that you purchase must go on the left side. Tiles that have no lights, well, they go on the right side of the mine. Once you've placed the tile, you complete the action by seeding it with the appropriate number of matching coal cubes. Some tunnels take 1 and others take 2. And then finally, you need to replace the tile on the factory. Keep in mind at the end of the game, if you have more tunnels on one side than the other, you'll lose points. That goes back to that whole balance thing I talked about. Further, tunnels don't get more coal. When you're ready for more coal in your mine, you have to buy another tunnel. There's one more action still associated with the factory. It's over here. This is a special action space that allows you to select the top 5 face-down tunnel tiles from the stack. If you like one of them, you can pay the normal cost and place it per the normal rules. The remaining tiles can then be placed on the top or the bottom of the stack. You get to decide. In addition, if none of the tiles meet your needs, you can go ahead and return all 5. But remember, you can't split them up, so all 5 will go on the top or on the bottom. The second action area allows you to actually mine the coal. Which space you select tells you how many action points you have to spend mining the coal. For example, you place a worker on the 8th spot. This means you now have 8 action points to use. For each level your elevator stops on, you spend 1 point. For each cube of coal you then move onto the elevator, costs another point. Finally, for each cube of coal that you remove from the elevator, an additional point is spent. Let's take a look at all this in action. The blue player has 8 points. So he moves the elevator to the bottom of his mine, that costs 1 point. Now he moves both black cubes onto the elevator, that costs him his second and third point. He then moves the elevator up to the yellow level, that's point number 4. He moves 1 yellow cube onto the elevator for his 5th point. He then moves the elevator to the top, that's his 6th point. Finally, he moves 2 cubes of coal from his elevator, placing 1 in his storage and 1 on his order card. That uses points 7 and 8. He still has an extra black cube in the elevator, but he can get to that on a subsequent turn. You can store as many cubes in the storage room as you want, but they don't count as delivered. You still have to move them to an order and deliver it before it counts. However, getting the coal out of your mine will give you points at the end of round 3. One last note, once you've moved a coal cube onto an order card, you can't move it to someplace else. The cube is now permanently assigned to this order. There's one other rule that allows you to take any 2 cubes and turn them into 1 color. So if you end up with additional cubes in your storeroom, for example, that you can't use, you can convert them to any other cube and possibly complete an order. The next action area allows you to deliver 1 or more completed orders. When you select a method of transportation and place 1 or more workers there, you must deliver all orders that are complete and match that type of transportation. You then collect the victory points associated with the order, return the cubes to the bank, and turn the card over in front of you. You'll use these cards to calculate your score at the end of each round. Any orders that are incomplete or do not match the transportation type remain in front of you. The fourth action area is the bank. Simply place an appropriate number of workers in an action space to take the amount of money associated with that space. Further, the bank has an unlimited spot. This spot allows you to place 1 worker to get 1 Deutschmark. It doesn't matter how many workers are there, and it doesn't matter if you've already used the spot. For each worker you put there, you get $1. The fifth and final area is the new order area. It's here that you obtain new order cards. There is no limit to the number of orders you can have, but for each incomplete or undelivered order at the end of the game, you're going to lose 1 point. So in other words, don't take too many cards because the only way to get rid of them is to both fulfill them with coal and deliver them to market. There's also one additional space that's similar to the space over on the factory. That's the spot here. If you place a worker here, you can select the top 5 orders and optionally select one. Place the remaining cards in any order you'd like on either the top or the bottom of the deck. Just like the factory, you don't need to keep the cards in any particular order, but you do need to return them all to the top or the bottom. That's pretty much it. When you run out of worker tokens, you're done for the round. If any other player still has workers left, they continue taking actions until they run out as well. They'll just skip you when they come to your turn. Once all the players have placed their workers, the turn ends. Before you do anything else, note which player has the most workers in the factory. They'll be the new starting player. In case of a tie, whoever is closest to the starting player will win the tie. The starting player themselves cannot win a tie, thus the only way to keep the starting player token is to have the most workers in the factory. Now all players can retrieve their workers from the board, including any in the canteen, and you're ready for end of round scoring. At the end of round 1, we're going to score for who shipped the most type of each coal, starting with yellow, and we can keep track of it with this little marker. Whoever shipped the most yellow will score 2 points, and whoever shipped the second most will score 1 point. So here you can see blue shipped 4 cubes of yellow coal. Red shipped 2, and orange shipped 3. And white didn't ship any this turn. So blue will get 2 points for first place, and orange will get 1 point for second place. If there's a tie, all players get the points associated with their score. So if 2 players tie for the most, they'll each get the first place points. If more than 1 player tie for the second most, they'll each get the second place points. You don't split the points among the tied players. And if there were 2 players tied for first, there won't be a second place. In addition, if you did not ship any of the given type of coal, you can't score any points. So in other words, there's no second place if you didn't ship any of that kind of coal. Also, in a 2-player game, there is no second place point. You'll then do this for brown, and then gray, and then finally black. Let's assume round 2 has just ended, so let's go ahead and do scoring. You'd again score for the most amount of each type of coal shipped, and then in round 2, you'll then count up each type of order used for each of the 4 types of transportation, starting with the wheelbarrow. Whoever gets first place will get 6 points, and whoever gets second place will get 3. So here you can see white shipped 3 orders using the wheelbarrow, and they come in first place. So they'll get 6 points. Orange came in second place by shipping 2 orders with the wheelbarrow. So that means they'll get 3 points. Blue and red didn't score points for wheelbarrows at all. You'll then score the most orders using the horse and cart. First place gets 7 points, second place gets 3. Then you'll score the most orders shipped with trucks. First place gets 8 points, second place gets 4. And finally, you'll score the most orders shipped via the railroad. First place gets 9 points, second place gets 4. Let's now assume you've finished round 3 and are ready for final scoring. Like in the first 2 rounds, you'll score who shipped the most of each type of coal. Then, like you did in round 2, you'll score for the most orders shipped with each mode of transportation. This time, you'll count up the number of empty coal carts in each player's mine. Whoever has the most empty yellow carts, for example, will receive 10 points. For example, blue can only count 4 empty yellow carts because he was unable to mine this last cart. Assuming blue now has the most empty carts, he'll get 10 points. Next, you'll count up all the empty brown carts. First place gets 11 points and second place gets 5. Then you'll do the same for gray carts. First place gets 12 points, second place gets 6. And finally, the black carts get counted. First place gets 13 points, second place gets 6. And that's it for the end of round scoring. Since the game is now over, you need to add up a few more things to get the final score. First, for every 5 Deutschmarks you have, you score 1 point. So in this case, blue has 11 Deutschmarks, so he'll get 2 points. Then, for every 3 coal cubes left anywhere on your board, you'll receive 1 point. So in this case, red has 4 total cubes left. She'll get 1 point. Next, count up all the undelivered orders. You will lose 1 point for each card you have not turned face down in front of you. Orange, for example, way overextended. They have 3 incomplete orders. That means they lose 3 points. Finally, count up all the tunnels, regardless of whether or not you have coal cubes on them, on the left side of your mine and then on the right. If there's a difference, you multiply that by 2. This is how many points you're going to lose for an imbalanced mine. So let's take a look at Blue's board. He's got 3 tunnels on the left, but 5 tunnels on the right. That creates an imbalance of 2 tunnels, which means he's going to lose 4 victory points. And that's it. Whoever now has the most remaining points is the winner. If there's a tie for first place, whoever has the most money left will be the winner. I hope you enjoyed this rules and setup video. If you'd like to see the game actually being played, click the link in the upper right-hand corner for the Coal Baron playthrough. As always, please subscribe to the BoardGameCorner.com YouTube channel or visit our website. Thanks for watching.